Have you ever stopped to ask yourself how many of your life choices were truly yours? And how many were influenced by what others expected of you? Imagine waking up one day and realizing that most of your time has been spent living a script you didn't write. The weight of family, social, and professional expectations is like an invisible chain. You don't see it, but you feel it. From childhood, we are taught that there are right paths to follow. Whether it's education, career, or relationships, there's always a predefined model of success we are encouraged to pursue. They tell us that if we do everything the right way, happiness will follow. But why then do so many people who follow this script end up feeling empty, frustrated, and trapped in lives that don't reflect who they really are? The truth is, living for others may seem comfortable in the short term. You avoid conflict, gain approval, and feel like you're doing what you're supposed to do. But little by little, your true self fades. Small compromises pile up, and before you realize it, your deepest desires have been replaced by what others wanted for you. Now, try this simple test. Think of the 3 most important decisions you've made in the past few years. Now ask yourself, if no one had influenced me or expected anything from me, would I have made the same choice? If the answer is no, or if you hesitate, that might be a sign that you're not truly living for yourself. But don't panic. Recognizing this isn't a reason to feel hopeless. It's the first key to change. In the next section, we'll explore how this trap is formed and why so many people spend their entire lives without realizing they're caught in it. No one wakes up one day and suddenly decides to live for others. It happens gradually, so subtly that you don't even realize it's happening. It starts when you're a child, learning that certain behaviors earn you praise, while others bring disappointment. Every time you hear, "Good job," for following the rules, or "That's not how things are done," for stepping out of line, you absorb an unspoken lesson. Acceptance comes from conformity. As you grow, the stakes get higher. Maybe you wanted to pursue a career in art, but people told you it wasn't practical. Maybe you felt drawn to an unconventional lifestyle, but society made you feel selfish for choosing it. Over time, you begin to internalize these expectations. Instead of asking, "What do I want?" you start asking, "What will people think?" Psychologists call this social conditioning, a process where we unconsciously adopt the values, behaviors, and beliefs of those around us. It's not entirely our fault. Human beings evolved to depend on their tribes for survival. Being accepted meant safety, while rejection was a real threat. Even today, our brains are wired to fear social exclusion, even when it no longer threatens our survival. But here's where it becomes dangerous. When external validation becomes more important than internal fulfillment. You start making choices not based on what makes you happy, but on what keeps you approved. You measure success by how well you fit in, rather than by how true you are to yourself. And worst of all, because this happens so gradually, most people never stop to question it. So, let's change that. Ask yourself this. If I removed every expectation society placed on me, what kind of life would I truly want? If this question makes you uncomfortable, it's because deep down, you know the answer might be very different from the life you're currently living. In the next section, we'll dive into the hidden cost of living for others, the silent toll it takes on your mental health, happiness, and sense of purpose. At first glance, living for others seems harmless, even noble. You avoid conflict, meet expectations, and gain approval. But beneath the surface, there's a silent cost, a slow erosion of your identity, your happiness, and your sense of purpose. When you ignore your own desires for too long, something strange happens. You start feeling disconnected from yourself. You make choices based on what others expect, and yet, no matter how much you try to please them, it never feels like enough. A creeping sense of emptiness begins to take over. You might tell yourself, "This is just how life is," but deep down, a quiet voice whispers, "Is this really all there is?" Psychologists have a term for this: self-alienation. The feeling of being a stranger to yourself. It happens when your outer life no longer matches your inner truth. You laugh at jokes you don't find funny, pursue goals you don't care about, and wake up each day feeling a little less like the person you once were. And then there's the exhaustion. Carrying the weight of other people's expectations is draining. You become trapped in a cycle of people-pleasing, constantly worrying about how others perceive you. Every decision, big or small, feels like a performance, and slowly, the pressure to be perfect starts suffocating you. But here's the part no one talks about. Even if you do everything right, even if you sacrifice your own needs to make everyone else happy, it still won't guarantee their approval. People's expectations are constantly shifting, and the moment you step slightly outside their mold, you risk criticism. So you're left with a choice. Keep living for them and lose yourself in the process, or finally break free and start living for yourself. Now, let's talk about what happens when you do take that leap. In the next section, we'll explore the powerful transformation that begins the moment you stop seeking permission and start living life on your own terms. Something incredible happens the moment you stop living for others and start making choices based on what truly fulfills you. At first, it feels uncomfortable, like stepping into the unknown without a map. The fear of judgment still lingers, and a part of you might hesitate, wondering if you're making a mistake. But then, something shifts. For the first time in a long time, you feel lighter. Decisions that once felt suffocating now carry a sense of freedom. Instead of asking, "What will they think?" you begin to ask, "What do I want?" And that one simple shift changes everything. The world starts to look different when you no longer filter your choices through the expectations of others. You begin to notice how much of your old life was built on obligations you never truly agreed to. You realize that the version of you people knew wasn't the real you, but rather a carefully constructed mask designed to keep everyone comfortable. Of course, this transformation doesn't come without challenges. Some people won't understand. Some might even resist your change, accusing you of being selfish or reckless. But here's the truth. When you start living for yourself, the people who truly care about you will support you, and those who don't. They were never really on your side to begin with. There's a reason why the happiest, most fulfilled people are those who have the courage to walk their own path. They know something that most don't. The only person who has to live with your choices is you. Society won't live with your regrets. Your family won't experience the emptiness of a life unlived. Only you will. So ask yourself, what would my life look like if I stopped waiting for permission and simply started living? Because the truth is, no one is coming to grant you that permission. It has to come from you. In the next section, we'll break down the practical steps to reclaim your life, simple but powerful actions you can take right now to start living authentically. At first, breaking free feels like standing at the edge of a cliff. Below, the unknown stretches endlessly, terrifying and unpredictable. Behind you, the life you've always known, the safe, familiar path dictated by others. You know if you turn back, nothing will change. The same expectations, the same silent compromises, the same emptiness. And so, you stand there, heart-pounding, asking yourself, what now? The truth is, no one ever teaches you how to live for yourself. For years, you've been conditioned to prioritize others' expectations over your own, to seek approval instead of authenticity. So where do you even begin? It starts with something simple, yet profoundly difficult. Recognition. You must take an honest look at your life and ask yourself the hard questions. Questions most people spend a lifetime avoiding. Am I living the life I want, or the life I was told to want? If no one's opinion mattered, would I still be here doing what I'm doing now? These answers might be unsettling, but discomfort is a sign of growth. It means you're waking up. Then comes the part that feels impossible. Choosing yourself. At first, it's small. A quiet refusal to keep following a script that doesn't fit. A decision made without consulting anyone else. A moment where you finally say no to something that drains you, and yes to something that ignites you. It's uncomfortable, foreign, maybe even guilt-inducing. But it's also exhilarating. At some point, you will face resistance. People might question you, try to pull you back into the familiar patterns they're comfortable with. They may call you selfish, reckless, ungrateful. This is the moment where most people cave, where they shrink themselves back into the roles they were given. But you won't. Because you'll understand something they don't. The greatest act of courage is refusing to betray yourself just to make others comfortable. With each choice, the weight on your shoulders gets lighter. The need for validation fades. You stop explaining yourself. You stop justifying your existence. And one day, almost without realizing it, you wake up and feel something unfamiliar yet deeply right, a sense of peace. Not the fragile, conditional peace that comes from pleasing others, but the unshakable kind that comes from knowing you are finally, truly living on your own terms. This is where everything changes. But before we reach the final truth, the realization that will alter the way you see your life forever, there's one last thing you need to understand. Because while choosing yourself is the key to freedom, there's still one final barrier you must break. And once you do, there will be no turning back. There comes a moment in life when you realize something so powerful, so undeniable, that once it enters your mind, you can never go back. A realization that shatters every excuse, every delay, every reason you've ever given yourself for not living the way you truly want. And that truth is this: no one is coming to save you. For years, you've been waiting for the right moment, waiting for permission, waiting for someone to tell you it's okay to finally put yourself first. But no one will, because the world isn't designed to hand you the life you want. It's designed to keep you exactly where you are. Comfortable, predictable, controlled. You tell yourself you'll start next year, next month, next week, but deep down, you know the truth. If you don't start now, you never will. The perfect moment will never come. No one will give you the green light. The people whose approval you seek, they're too busy living inside their own fears to free you from yours. And so, the choice is yours. You can keep living this half-life, following rules you never agreed to, playing a role that was written for you long before you had a say. You can continue carrying the weight of expectations that were never yours to bear, slowly watching the years slip through your fingers. Or you can decide, right now, that it ends today. You can walk away from the need for permission. You can stop justifying yourself. You can take control, step into the unknown, and finally live for yourself. Will it be easy? No. Will it be worth it? More than you can imagine. Because at the end of your life, when you look back, the only thing that will matter is whether you lived a life that was truly yours. Not the life they expected, not the life they wanted. Yours. So, the question is no longer, what will they think? The only question that matters now is, what will you do with the time you have left? The answer is yours to decide.